We'd like to thank you for listening to this show on the Guild of Un-Medicated Hijinks. As with all the shows on the Guild of Un-Medicated Hijinks, this show is intended for listeners 18 years of age and older. It will contain strange situations, foul language, probably some abuse, and, the usual nudity. So, if you are not 18, please find more age-appropriate content. You've been warned. Alright, y'all, thanks for joining us today. My name is Cletus Stump, and today I'm going to do something special for y'all. I'm going to do a reading of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. About the author. Lewis Carroll is a motherfucker who got high as shit and wrote crazy-ass stories about little girls. About the reader. Anything y'all need to know about me is imprinted on my belt buckle. Just stop me in any bar you find me in and ask me about it. I'll be happy to show it to you. And while you're down there, depending on who you are, I might have some other suggestions on what you can do. Chapter 1. Down the Rabbit Hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversation? Now, obviously, I just have to break aside here and just tell you, this is what happens when you let silly little city girls come into the country. They don't know what the hell to do with themselves. She could go swimming, she could go fishing, she could go hunting, all kinds of shit she could be doing, and what's she doing? Sitting on the bank, bitching to herself about having nothing to do. That's why city chicks need to stay in the city, and country folks should stay in the country. That way everybody knows where they are and what they can do. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So she was considering her in her own mind, as well as she could, for the hot day made her feel very sleepy and stupid. I'm sorry, she was stupid to begin with. That's nothing new. Whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain, leaving that alone, would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. Dum dum dum. There was nothing very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to herself, oh dear, I shall be late." When she thought it over afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered about this, but at the time, all seemed quite natural. Now, I got a couple of cousins who get into some, shall we say, recreational medicinals. They have the exact same problem, so no matter how out of place this seems, this is what happens. Again, you put city girls in the country, they got nothing else to do, they start picking random mushrooms and getting high and shit. And then next thing you know, you see a white rabbit and it starts talking to you. I had that same problem once with the little green midget, but don't worry, he told me do or do not, there is no try, and you know what? That advice has suited me ever since. I have put that to such good use. Anyway, back to the story. When the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket. First off, rabbits ain't got no thumbs. How the hell was this rabbit holding a goram watch? Let's think about that for just a moment. And out of its waistcoat pocket? Are you kidding me? No thumb, and managed to get a pocket watch out of a waistcoat pocket. That thing is damn near as small as the watch itself. It is a pain in the ass. I don't know how they did that shit, but that is a surefire sign that you are high as a motherfucker when you think a rabbit can hold a goddamn pocket watch without a thumb and get it out of a pocket. He looked at it and hurried on. Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it, and burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it, and fortunately was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under a hedge. Now, I've been hungry before. I mean, let's face it, you get high enough, you get the munchies. But I don't know that I would want to eat a talking rabbit wearing clothes. That's just weird. Next thing you know, you wake up and you realize, oh, it wasn't a rabbit. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was going to get out again. Now, I hate to keep drawing this comparison, but let's face it, you cannot let these city girls into the country. They do stupid shit. They don't think about consequences. What the hell is wrong with them? The rabbit hole went straight on, like a tunnel, for some way. Okay, seriously, the rabbit hole is a tunnel. What are you talking about? It went on like a tunnel. It went on because it is a tunnel. And then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down a very deep well. Oh my. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her and wonder what was going to happen next. First she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. And then she looks at the side of the well and noticed they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here is where she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She looked down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labeled Orange Marmalade. But to her great disappointment, it was empty. Now, didn't she just say it was so dark she couldn't see jack shit nothing, and now she's like, well, let me start taking shit down off of the cupboards I can suddenly see for no particular fucking reason, and read this jar that says Orange Marmalade. It's a weird-ass place to keep orange marmalade, just to begin with. It's a weird-ass thing to see on a drug trip, I'm just saying. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody. Okay, really, who's she going to kill? The rabbit? She was going to eat it anyway. So she managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Well, thought Alice to herself, because let's face it, who the fuck was she going to think it at? After such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think me at home. Why, because you get high and fell down a rabbit hole? I'm not impressed. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it even if I fell off the top of a house, which was very likely true. I'm just sitting there thinking, yeah, you should probably fall off the top of a house. Make room for more reasonable and useful people. But that's just my opinion, and I'm just right. So anyway, down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how many miles I've fallen by this time, she said aloud. I don't know who the fuck to. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For you see, Alice had learnt several things of this sort in her lessons in the schoolroom, and though it was not a very good opportunity for showing off her knowledge, there was no one to listen to her. Still, it was good practice to say it over. Okay, really, she learned so damn much in school, but she didn't figure out not to fall down a goddamn hole chasing a rabbit that was talking to itself and looking at a pocket watch it couldn't possibly hold. Yeah, this is city intelligence right there. Oh my God. Anyway, yep, that's about the right distance. But then I wonder what latitude or longitude I've got to. Alright, let me just seriously... Latitude and longitude are for the surface of the earth. There is no latitude or longitude underneath the earth. Bloody hell. Presently she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll seem to come out among the people that walk with their heads downward. Oh my God. The Antipathies, I think. She was rather glad there was no one listening this time. Me too, because she sounds like a fucking idiot. As it didn't sound all the way right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? She tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think you could manage it? I don't think I would curtsy in the first damn place. I'd probably be trying to find a fucking handhold, or at least tip myself head first so that when I splattered into the ground, I wouldn't have time to think about how painful it was. But that's just me. And what an ignorant little girl she'll think me for asking. No, I'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Yeah, because you've done such a bang-up job so far. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do. So Alice soon began talking again, because some women just don't know how to shut the hell up. Dinah'll miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dinah was the cat. This bitch does not know anything about cats. The cat will miss being fed. That's pretty much about it. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. Now that's just fucking cruelty to animals. Think about that for a second. That's harsh. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? Because you're too stupid to know. And here Alice began to get rather sleepy, and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes, do bats eat cats? For you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dinah, except that Dinah is a fucking cat and has no hand. And saying to her very earnestly, now Dinah, tell me the truth, did you ever eat a bat? And suddenly, thump thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Yeah, I know after I've fallen several miles into a heap of sticks and dry leaves, I just go thump thump and then I'm fine. Aren't you? Alice was not a bit hurt. She jumped up onto her feet in a moment. I understand if you take certain amphetamines, you can do that even if you've broken both legs. That's just as far as I know, though. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. You notice how this dark shit seems to work out real well when she doesn't need to actually see shit? Just saying. Before her was another long passage, and the White Rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. Where the fuck is this light coming from that she can see that shit, but she can't see above her? Really? Just think about it. I'm just saying. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say, as it turned a corner, "Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting." She was close behind it when she turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She found herself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from a roof. Thank you for explaining where some of this fucking light came from. I appreciate that shit. There were doors all around the hall, but they were all locked. And when Alice had been all the way down one side and up the other, trying every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was ever going to get out again. Suddenly she came upon a three-legged table, all made of solid glass. That's just poor fucking construction. That's not going to hold up to jack shit. You put a wrong thing on there, it's just going to shatter. What retard came up with that? There was nothing on it except a tiny golden key, because it couldn't support anything the fuck else. And Alice's first thought was that it might belong to one of the doors of the hall. No shit, bitch. But alas, either the locks were too large or the key was too small. But at any rate, it would not open any of them. Aww. However, on the second time round, she came upon a low curtain she had not noticed before because she was high as fuck. And behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Alice opened the door and found it led into a small passage, not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt down and looked along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. How she longed to get out of that dark hall. Now, wait a minute, didn't she just say it was fucking lit up? Now it's dark again. I swear to God, this bitch is out of her fucking mind. And wander about among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains. But she could not even get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, thought poor Alice, there's nothing in it. I mean, it would be of very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I wish you could shut up like... Anyway, I think I could if I only knew how to begin. For you see, so many out-of-the-way things had happened lately that Alice had begun to think that very few things indeed were really impossible. And that's, what happens when you start taking heavy drugs. You start to think everything's possible. And I don't care what they taught you in school, that shit is not true. There seemed to be no use in waiting by the little door, so she went back to the table, half hoping she might find another key on it, or at any rate a book of rules for shutting people up like telescopes. This time she found a little bottle on it. Drunken bitch. Which certainly was not here before, said Alice, to no one in particular, 'cause she's still the fuck alone. And round the neck of the bottle was a paper label with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed on it in large letters. I have a bottle like this in my refrigerator. Technically, the word is Budweiser, but it means drink me. It was all very well to say drink me, but the wise little Alice was not going to do that in a hurry. If we've proven anything in this reading so far, it's that this little bitch is not wise, or smart, or capable, or useful. No, I'll look first, she said, and see whether it's marked poison or not. Because let's face it, if you're going to poison a stupid little bitch, what you're going to do is write poison on the goddamn bottle. That's how you get that shit done. Sure, the kind of logic only a stoner would understand. For she had read several nice little histories about children who had gotten burnt and eaten up by wild beasts and other unpleasant things, all because they would not remember the simple rules their friends had taught them, such as that a red-hot poker will burn you if you hold it too long, that if you cut your finger very deeply with a knife, it usually bleeds. If you cut your finger even somewhat deeply with a knife and it does not bleed, you're not human. I'm just pointing this shit out. I can't believe I have to, but I swear to God, this is the shit we read children, so I need to point it out to you adults who are listening. She had never forgotten that. No shit! If you drink much from a bottle marked poison, it's almost certain to disagree with you sooner or later. If you consider killing you a disagreement, I agree with the disagreement. However, this bottle was not marked poison. No shit. So Alice ventured to taste it, and finding it very nice, because she was too retarded to fucking smell it before she tasted it, God only knows what it would have tasted like, it had, in fact, a sort of mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. Yeah, because if there's one thing I really want the things I drink to taste like, it's cherry tart, roast turkey, hot buttered toast all together. That's like whiskey and cotton candy. I love that shit, but you keep it separated. What a curious feeling, said Alice. I must be shutting up like a telescope. If only you'd shut up like a mute. And so it was. Indeed, she was now only 10 inches high. And her face brightened up at the thought that she was now the right size for going through the little door in that lovely garden. First, however, she waited for a few minutes to see if she was going to shrink any further. She felt a little nervous about this, for it might end, you know, said Alice to herself, in my going out altogether, like a candle. I wonder what I should be like then. Non-existent is what you would be, dumbass. And she tried to fancy what the flame of a candle is like after the candle is blown out. Non-existent, dumbass. For she could not remember having seen such a thing, 'cause she was high. After a while, finding that nothing more happened, she decided on going into the garden at once. But alas for poor Alice, her dumbassery struck again. When she got to the door, she found she had forgotten the little golden key, and when she went back to the table for it, she found she could not possibly reach it. She could see it quite plainly through the glass of the poorly constructed fucking table, and she tried her best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery, you know, like it was made out of glass or some shit. And when she had tired herself out with trying, the poor little thing sat down and cried, because again she's a useless bitch. Come, there's no use in crying like that, said Alice to herself, because again, doesn't have anyone else to talk to, poor lonely twit. Rather sharply, I advise you to leave off this minute. She generally gave herself very good advice, or at least she wasn't smart enough to take it, though she very seldom followed it. Yep, see, even the text agrees with me. And sometimes she scolded herself so severely as to bring tears into her eyes. And once she remembered trying to box her own ears for having cheated herself in a game of croquet she was playing against herself, for this curious child was very fond of pretending to be two people. But it's no use now, thought poor Alice, to pretend to be two people. Why, there's hardly enough of me left to make one respectable person. First off, I think it is kind of telling that she has no fucking friends and no one wants to play with her because she's that stupid. Second of all, I don't think there's much respectable in this person to begin with, because nothing she says makes sense, and she's the kind of person who goes out in the woods and takes drugs. Anyway, soon her eye fell on a little glass box that was lying under the table. She opened it and found in it a very small cake, on which the words, "Eat me," were beautifully marked in currants. Okay, first off, why'd she have to open the box to figure out what the fuck was in it when it was made of glass? That should have been pretty fucking obvious looking through the box what the fucking contents were. $5 says this dumb bitch is going to eat this cake having no fucking clue where it came from, who made it, how old it is, what the expiration date is, or any of the important shit you want to consider before you eat something. Anyway, let's continue on with the story and see if I'm right. Anyway, well, I'll eat it, says Alice, and if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key, and if it makes me go smaller, I can creep under the door. So either way, I'll get into the garden. I don't care which happens. Yeah, there's some bright deductive reasoning. She ate a little bit and said anxiously to herself, "Which way? Which way?" holding her hand on top of her head to feel which way it was growing, and she was quite surprised to find that she remained the same size. To be sure, this generally happens when one eats cake. But Alice had gotten so much into the way of expecting nothing but out-of-the-way things to happen that it seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in the common way. She set to work and very soon finished off the cake. That's the end of Chapter 1, folks. Stick around next time, and we will read and comment on Chapter 2 for you. Thank you for listening on the Guild of Un-Medicated Hijinks. There's still more hijinks to come.